Kia ora and hello. I'm Chester for Earth Sciences New Zealand, joined by John Law with the MetService, and we are talking about a pretty strong low moving out of the Southern Ocean. It's going to flick a front our way, and we're talking rain, wind, wind chill, John, and even some snow, especially in the Southland.
Yeah, so much coming through again, Chester. Thanks again for having me. It's such an interesting weekend coming up. Like I said, those strong winds back with us, that colder. This week, I think for many of us, has been some of the colder temperatures we've seen so far this year. It's a real change with that front coming through, stronger winds, more cloud. Temperatures not as cold tonight, but it's a fairly short-lived affair. As you were saying, that low pressure that runs across the south there really directs more of that southerly back up and across us. Cold air plus some strong winds. It's going to feel bitterly cold if you're out in those exposed areas. You can imagine the winds rushing up that Otago coast, around the coast of Southland, Banks Peninsula, classically in that far inland as well. Really going to be an interesting one, I think, as those winds rush through us. So one to watch out for Friday. And I think even through towards Saturday, it's still going to be a pretty brisk feeling few days.
Yeah, I agree. And at this recording, you all had some wind watches out for portions of the South Island. I'm going to run through that South Island again here on the New Zealand Ensemble. That's one of the models that we run here at Earth Sciences New Zealand. But, of course, your modeling saying similar story. We've got that strong southwesterly coming in. I suspect that we'll have to watch for potential updates to the watches and warnings on Friday if you're watching this from Friday. So, let's go ahead and just plug where we can get those while we're talking about that, John.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. The winds there really, really like the ramp ups we had through Friday. Where that low goes will be the one that's really key. So keep an eye on the warnings over at MetService.com on your app as well. Just because I think where those winds are going to be strongest around that coastal plain of Southland, Clutha, the Otago Peninsula, you can imagine as it sticks out into the water there, the winds rushing across the sea, and the first place they reach is that coast. So gusts 90 to 100 kilometers an hour, not out of the question. Perhaps even a little bit stronger around the coast there. So really one to watch out for. You can see the hills and ranges being picked out in the colours there as those winds rush to the tops too.
Yep.
So it's going to be pretty windy, particularly in those exposed locations. Worth keeping a close eye on the forecast, particularly for Friday. And I think through and towards Saturday, those southerly winds stick with us. So yeah, pretty brisk. And that combination of those strong winds and that cold air is going to give a significant wind chill, making it feel bitterly cold. So if you've got early morning sports planned on Saturday or anything planned Friday night. Friday night is going to be a really cold one running through. But that change to colder air, strong winds, and even that mix of sleet and snow and rainfall over us over the next few days over in the south, it's going to make it feel pretty bleak, I think, if you're out and about.
Yeah, 100%. I think anyone who has outdoor plans, as you mentioned, outdoor interests, the farmers, anyone in the ag sector, just be mindful if you're going to be outside and do what you can to protect those animals that need a little protection too. I think that's something that that you all were talking about in one of the meetings that was in with the MetService. So it's still winter, but we still need to think about how we stay warm during a cold air mass like this.
Exactly. We've seen how quickly things can change from the start of this week.
Yeah.
-7s, -8s in places like Mount Cook. Even the Desert Road got to about -7 earlier this week. And then this morning, about 8 o'clock, it was about 13 degrees Celsius.
It was so mild. Yeah.
It's crazy how quickly things can change. And I think tomorrow, many of us will wake up and it'll be a much milder story. Be windy, be wet. We've got the risk of thunderstorms out that western coast as we head through today. So plenty of weather. But once we see those winds swing around to the south, that change in direction brings a change in air mass, and that's what makes it feel cold. So don't be lulled into that false sense of security over the next few days. We've brought that cold air back with us. And I think it stays pretty good and southerly through in towards the weekend and the start of next week. Of course, it's August from Saturday, the 1st of August. So
that's right.
July's come and gone, but I think it's going to be a cold start to August as we head through there.
Yeah, the weekend does look quite southerly to start in the South Island, and then we switched to westerly, but another southerly change next week. We'll talk more about next week in a second. I wanted to come back to this cold change because as that colder air filters in behind this front and this low as it pushes to the south and east, we've got the wind to contend with. We've got the precipitation to deal with. We will have some rain. But in addition to that, just the last thing I want to talk about here in the short range, at least, the Friday nighttime period, is we do get some snow. Where do you think the elevation of the snow is going to be down to by Friday evening?
I think as we head through Friday evening, probably down to around about 200 or 300 meters for those spots down south. So that's low enough to definitely impact some of those higher mountain passes, perhaps even that motorway, Dunedin to Waitati, out towards the north there, say I-1. It could well be enough to bring some snow over the hills there out towards the west of the city. So I think it's going to be interesting. And even if we head up in towards later on Friday evening, we might even find a bit of snow about the tops of the Port Hills out in Banks Peninsula. So down to about 500 meters there. So it's just enough. I think Christchurch City can be finding some showers and cold weather, but I think any snow will be out on over the hills there. So spectacular scenery to wake up to.
Sure.
Yeah, you're going to need those extra layers, but it's something to watch out for.
Oh, no doubt about it. And you all will definitely issue the road snowfall warnings as needed. So, again, MetService app, good place for that, or on the website. Okay,
That's right.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we've got one already for the Arthur's Pass, and it's very likely we'll find more coming across.
Sure.
You can see places like that Crown Range Road that goes across from Queenstown to Wanaka. Always an interesting one through there. And down in the south as well, places like the Northbridge Road as well. All these classically key highways, to get across from east to west, doesn't take much to start to impact those. And even if you're not right to the highest parts there, cold, frosty conditions we saw at the start of the week, and as we head in towards next week, icy conditions on the roads and some frosty ones. It's still worth taking extra care and extra time, especially for those early morning commutes.
All right. So with that said, we've got this. We've covered the snow. We've covered the wind. We've covered the wind chill, but the weekend, that's only Friday, John. And we kind of touched into Saturday a little bit. I'm going to show the temperatures here. This is 850 hectopascals. It's just a little higher up in the atmosphere, so not at the surface. But this gives you an idea of when you get like a cold air mass pushing in. And look at this cold air that we get. We get cold. It does warm up slightly into Sunday, but then more cold weather coming in early into next week.
So, look at that.
Yeah, so there's just so much to watch, John. It's not just the weekend. That's the point of the video, right? We're just here to talk mostly about the weekend, but giving you a preview of next week, we like to do that too. And we've got a lot of cold air coming in. So start of August, even though it's the final month of winter, we are not done with winter. We still have a lot of winter left.
Yeah, definitely. It's a classic setup, isn't it? The gates open to those southerly winds, and then the high pushing over the top. You end up with that combination of cold air. You can see in those temperatures there. Generally a cold air mass. Add in some clear skies, and as those winds start to ease off through the weekend, it can really mean that those temperatures drop down again overnight. So I think back into some -5s, -6s for those central parts of Canterbury, down the far south as well, down towards the central Otago. Yeah, it's going to be a chilly start once we head in towards August itself.
Oh, goodness gracious. All right. Well, winter is not over. I think you have to be thinking warm thoughts, or maybe you can come up to the winterless north, as we like to call it sometime. But I think even up through places like Auckland and Northland, we're looking at some colder temperatures later next week as well. So we're not going to be completely spared in the far north. Any last thoughts before we get out here and think warm thoughts for the weekend?
I think warm thoughts are probably the best thing we can do. It's going to be one to watch out for. We've got a lot of activity on Friday. The winds down on that southern coast, really ones to really be keeping a close eye on. Places like from Invercargill round towards Dunedin, I think real key ones through there. But definitely plenty happening as we go through the weekend. But I think we're going to need those extra layers if you're out and about this weekend.
Oh, yeah, for sure. If you're heading up to the ski field, that's a good reminder, too, that you want to make sure that you have the appropriate layers and make sure that your car is equipped, too, because some of those high mountain roads will be covered in snow by the time we get to Friday night and on the weekend.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, John Law, for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Enjoy, Jester. See you soon.
Cheers.